Hello, this is Bedside Manor with Howard Chance. I have a very special guest today, Mr. Emerson Rad Non-Duality. Um, this is a real pleasure for me, and I'm so honored that you agreed to do this. And thank you so much for being here, Emerson.
Oh, likewise. Thank you for having me, Howard. This is an honor. Thank you. I like your interviews.
I really appreciate that very much, very much. And yeah, I don't have much of an audience, but the people that seem to be watching are very dear to me, so it's fun to do.
Yeah.
I know that you started what nothing conference. How long ago? What was that? 10 years?
Actually, no, not 10 years. Actually, it just started a year and a half. Only a
A
year and a
year
half.
and a half,
Yeah, it's
and you
only a
and you're
year and a
doing
half.
and
I
it.
wanted to message you, but I'm like, you know what I'm saying? But it's only a year and a half. It started back in we had the Nothing conference in September of last year. So there was a 6 month preparation prior to that.
Wow,
Yeah.
and it just exploded as far as popularity. I mean, it's crazy, right? I mean, well, you have all the you have Tony Parsons, you have Jim Newman, you got all the greats, and Paul Schumers, who I love very much, Andreas, and everybody, man, and all of them. And it's just such a great channel. It's such a wealth of
It started with like 200 views to each video. It took a
right.
while to get to where it got, but yeah. Yeah,
Hey
it
man,
started it's kind of like your channel right now is just starting, right? How long have you have been doing this
I'm gonna say I'll go ahead and say 6 months,
6 months, yeah.
um, something like that. But I don't know if it's been that long. But like you said, there's planning and I don't know when it actually started, and then when I finally did start, it's. But I'll just say 6 months, and
Yeah.
I honestly, it, I'm grateful for one subscriber. I mean, it's just funny. I was watching a HBO special the other day. A guy, a cartoon about a guy essentially like myself, who has this page he started. He has one subscriber, and he just lives for the guy. It was funny. I thought you guys, I live for you. Thank you so much. And he was content to do the page for his one subscriber. And it was funny because I was feeling kind of low. I was like, well, it's not taking off like I thought it would. But then I saw that and I was like, you know what? If one person watches, why not?
Yeah.
um, but along that line, I watched a few of your interviews um, again last night. Um, and yeah, there's so much territory to cover here. Um, if is there something that you would like to start off with? Would you like to explain, say, your take on the unconditional non-duality, um,
Yeah.
or your rendition of it?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. When I came across this unconditional communication, maybe about 3 years ago, it was like it was just the most refreshing and the scariest communication ever. It was like it was being in love and also afraid of death at the same time, and it was just this feelings, that were arising listening to this communication. And many people have heard my history, the history of Emerson being a spiritual teacher, and held on to beliefs, held on to ideas, held on to identity of Emerson, being a teacher, having this, kind of a what do you call that word again? Lineage,
Satellite.
lineage, lineage,
Lineage.
right? Lineage, believing that something came onto. But I just, what I realized at that time was that, I grew up Catholic and left Catholicism only to land into a different cage, which was spirituality. Spirituality was just another cage, and I thought that was liberation. And I was really wrong. No one can know liberation, but at that time, thinking that coming into religion, into spirituality, was was a move to free the self or to free the mind or whatever, right? But it was just a story. It was just a story. It was just really insignificant as well. Um, so when I encountered this communication, when the first book that I actually got into, I was typing everything from consciousness to awareness, looking for meaning, looking for a source, looking for an ultimatum, looking for some kind of a um, what do you call it? Enlightenment. Looking for that. And I had a glimpse maybe about 10 years ago. So when I encountered Richard Sylvester's "I Hope You Die Soon," there was a
I love
death
that guy.
wish. Oh yeah, he's great.
I
He's
love
great.
that guy. Yeah,
He's great. I was
yeah,
actually planning to. It was kind of funny before this interview. I had this like library kind of like background, and I was going to drink some whiskey. You know what I'm saying? To kind of like emulate Richard Sylvester because it was
yeah.
just unhinged, and the conversation that I've had with him anyway. So when I when I when I saw that book and then I discovered Tony Parsons, because Tony Parsons said, "I hope you die soon" to Richard Sylvester in that book. And so I started researching Tony Parsons and on all of these other speakers because I've not had any luck with any of the following all of these other, I don't want to name names,
Yeah,
but these other non-duality teachers. It just was just really confusing for me. It was just very um, cyclical, and it came from a knowing and a source, and I've been there before, you know. So when I encountered that message, I started listening to Tony Parsons and Jim Newman, Kenneth Madden, and there was a lot of frustration because I could never understand what was being talked about. And there was a part of me that wanted to get it, wanted to the Emerson to fall away, and that became kind of like an obsession, not really for that long, maybe for maybe about a year, and but I've said this story so many times, so this is just a story about a character trying to find its way home when it's already been home all this time, and there's no character; it's just home.
Well, I have a friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to get because we're here now. So I have a friend of mine. I asked everybody in the group and on my page, "Do you have a question for Emerson?" And the one question that came through was, uh, "Could you ask him about his enlightenment story if he has one?" Did you? Yeah. So I mean, do you want to touch? Is that something that you want to touch on? Because I've heard. See, the thing about it is the glimpse or apparency or enlightenment or
Mm.
that story. The funny thing about it is it's indicative of the message altogether, and that the appearance is somehow separate from what the speaker is saying on stage, and so it's almost as if the life is not relevant to what the speaker is saying, in that um, the appearance doesn't happen, but or the shift in perspective doesn't happen, or the glimpse or the enlightenment story. However, the appearance of it does, and I was just wondering, do you have something like that in your story?
Yeah, for sure. I don't really like sharing it anymore, but I'm gonna share it. I'm gonna share it. I
I
I
love
do
you.
I
Thank
do.
you.
Oh, of course. Um, so it didn't really happen. There was no one there, but apparently what was happening is after many months of frustrations listening to Tony or Jim, there was a source of giving up. I will never get this. I will never get this. I will never get this. Became kind of like a mantra, a frustration mantra, not to get into something. And then this apparently in the time I was just DJing, gave up the seeking, not to. It just happened. There was no one choosing it, but the apparent giving up the seeking, I was just DJing one day, for about 4 hours, and I sat down. It was just sitting down. There was no one here. There's never been anyone here. I'll give another story to explain this story. It's kind of like
Sure.
when you're a little kid and then you wake up, at Christmas Eve waiting for Santa. You wait for that Santa. You've been good the whole year and all of this stuff, and you you convince yourself that maybe I can hear his footsteps, or maybe we have to offer some cookies and milk and all that kind of narrative. And then one day, that belief of Santa has fallen away, has dropped away, and you don't even know when that happened. So it's uneventful as that. So it's just sitting down on a chair, and then there was no one. It was just so obvious that there's never been anyone here, as obvious as there's never been any Santa. It was
Well,
just seen as a narrative, as a story, as an idea, and it was like it was a big wow. I'm like, it's always been this way.
mhm,
It's always been this simple. It's always been natural this way, and and looked around and everything was in it's in perfect place, and nothing was missing. This is its entirety. There's nothing. This is appearing as everything as it is. There was nothing lacking. It was in its full completeness, but there was and then knowing. So there was no one there to hold on to any stories. It was just an unraveling for no one, kind of like a free falling. People always say that,
yeah,
um, but kind of like a an unraveling for no one. There's no end to this unraveling.
mhm.
It's always unraveling. It's always unhappening. It's always unknowing. It's always the moment that you say this, it's this and this. So it was just that.
Now,
But
how
that's
do
just a
you?
story as well.
Well, it's beautiful, and it's also it's kind of along the line of really what I want to talk about in that it is the two uh, coinciding messages that are kind of it's not contradictory. That's not the right word, but it's more of a paradox in that um, it's unknowable, completely.
Mhm.
It's chaos, random, anarchistically, unfathomable, right? And then, but yet also already whole and complete.
Yeah.
And so both are happening kind of simultaneously in this in this sense that the self does not have a tether to an objective reality, and um, however, it appears as already whole and complete with a free will that is interactive with its environment. So it seems like it's non-dimensional to me in that it is both whole and complete and interactive, as well as finding, please allow me this drunken,
I was
you
about to
know,
cut in there, but go ahead.
yeah, but it's like, and also finding itself in the story of a medium that is completely indifferent to its wants and needs. And so it is all of these things happening simultaneously. Um, and to make a claim one way or another, wouldn't that be, for instance, as an appearance, a speaker doesn't
Mhm.
really have any inherent value as far as
Mhm.
an existence. So you don't really exist,
Mhm.
and yet so to make the assertion that it's already whole and complete would be baseless, would it not?
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. Making kind of like a final statement like that is quite landing into a position, because there's it's this is positionless, and even
Yeah,
that sounds like a landing into something, because saying that is
right.
positionless. So words can only take you so far to the clarity of what's so
Mm,
obvious. So the obviousness of this is trying to grasp at words like there's nothing missing, this is full and complete, this is empty fullness, this is whatever. But all those words really can't point to what's already appearing as everything. So what's appearing as everything is this. But the moment that you say this, it's already not this.
something else. Right. Not
Yeah,
a
so
thing.
words are is like muddying the water of a clear lake.
Yeah.
And it's it's so simple, it's so ordinary that it can't be wrapped around in words. The
Yes.
word seems like a veil to what's already being presented as completeness or aliveness or awakeness or whatever word that comes up, right? Because a word will just veil what is being expressed as, again, me saying full and complete, or nothing is happening, is just another destination. When this is a
Yes.
destinationless, when it's complete, um, see, not even the word complete, right? So we find, like it's free falling. So it's unknowing. So
Yes.
it's uncreating. It's
Yes.
unraveling. It's never ending. And that is a closer description of something that is undefinable.
Yes.
And coming into kind of like, I'll say something like, what's being looked for, what's trying to be, discussed here, seems to be hidden, seems to be not understandable because it's already appearing as everything.
Yes. And that's the thing where it's there's never a place where it's either whole or complete or completely anarchistic.
Yeah.
What it is, it's whole and complete as anarchy, as complete
Yeah.
chaos and random.
Oh,
So
it's
wholeness is
anarchy.
it's
It's
anarchy.
anarchy.
So
Yeah.
and see, this is where I think a lot of people have issue with the message in that it seems to be a nipping in the bud of, like, for example, to say it's a whole and complete but, and then they say no, that's it. Because what happens then is the seeker is like, wait a minute, because I am interactive as well as whole and complete. So if I'm nipping the apparent free will, that is what, like a chair chairs, the Mountain Dew bottle,
Mm,
Mountain Dews, Howard's, right? I'm already
yeah.
whole and complete as interactive. So the thing about it is, to negate that aspect of whole and complete is to negate something in order to complete something that is already whole, because it's not dimensionally one or the other, it's both. And it's all happening
Yeah.
simultaneously. And so that chaos is that freedom involved, and the appearance of an individual being able to interact with what is already whole and complete as something that is totally chaotic and random and beautiful, and also ordinary and just nothing. So
Yeah.
it's all of these things and none of these things. And that's the one issue that I have with the messageless message, in that it seems like the speaker is wanting to somehow confine that interaction just because it's not based in a reality. And I'm saying that the appearance
Mm,
is the reality, and why not, uh, you know, allow the seeker to understand it. The apparent reality in which that they are appearing to interact is, a little broader, in that it's already whole and complete, but it's exactly as it is, and also not as it appears. So the paradox is deeper than just no. It's already whole and complete. And I think a lot of seekers, by the time they come to me, are basically going, what that, how can I not? I mean, it's just, they're just completely, maxed on it. And I was just wondering, I mean, do you have any thoughts on that? I mean,
well, this communication doesn't see anyone. It's not talking to an audience. It's not talking to anyone at all because it sees no one. There's no separation. And I know, what I'm saying, that that's quite hard for a seeker, because the seeker wants, it's the starvation of that seeker. Because when this is being talked about in when it's said that nothing is happening and there's no one that has ever been here, it's the obviousness of it. It's not a concept, it's not an idea, but it's a radical honesty of what
I,
apparently is happening. So it's not going to coddle a seeker and say, well, I know that there's nothing happening and there's no one here, but
well, but see, that's the thing.
yeah,
So the apparency of an individual is, um, basically completely, it's nipped in the bud, in that, no, you don't exist. So the seeker, I guess, to graduate would say the same to the speaker and just say, well,
Well,
to you,
well,
and
let me go back to the story of Santa. You know what I'm saying? So, for
yeah,
example, if you see someone that's a 20-year-old that is still waiting for Santa, and then you're going to talk to that person and you're going to say, hey buddy, you know what, I know, you know what, that you believe until you're 20 that there's a Santa, you're still waiting for Santa, and you're trying to be good and bad, but there's no Santa.
yeah,
It's radical honesty from no one,
yeah,
right? You said that, you know, how can, you know, someone with a good heart communicate this brutal honesty? You know
yeah.
what? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But see, people gravitate towards you because they know that you got a great heart, and you do. I don't care what you say. You do have a way of softening the blow. In that you speak of, you don't tell a seeker directly that no, I'm going to nip you right in
So,
the butt. You
but
know,
unconditional
you'll
love
do it in a
is
third person, and I think it's very much more palatable because you're telling a story about the a possible character rather than nipping that character in the bud. And I think that there's a
it's
distinct,
just a nudge saying that, isn't it obvious though? Isn't it
but
obvious that there's never been anyone here?
well,
Isn't
yes,
it quite,
yeah,
yeah.
it's
But
out.
the
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Yes.
but you know,
Sorry. My fault.
so maybe that's what's coming across. It's just like a little nudge saying that, hey, you know what, there's no one here, but isn't it obvious? Isn't it quite
Yes.
simple? Isn't
Yes.
it quite yeah, it's
But
so
for the
obvious.
person that's not though, I mean,
Hmm.
instead of just saying you just don't exist, why
Let me go
not?
back to the Santa story again, kind of like saying to the person that believes in Santa,
Yeah.
and you're going to say, isn't it obvious though that there's no Santa?
Right.
Yeah, isn't it obvious?
Yeah.
That's actually more compassionate by saying, by lying to them, well, you know what, there's a Santa, but you can get rid of the Santa idea by focusing on.
How is that more? How is that more? That is such bull because there are people that go to this thing for 50 years and don't get it, and you just nope, and it's
No,
like
no, no.
how is that possibly more caring? You
Well,
know,
what
because
I
when
think radical honesty, because as a spiritual teacher, when I was a spiritual teacher for 10 years,
yeah.
all I basically said was bullshit. Everything, you know, and sometimes I knew I was coming from a place of earnestness because I wanted to help them and everything. But I too believed in Santa. I believed in this
Yeah.
liberation called Santa and being good or evil. So I played along with it, but there I knew that there was something off, right? So when you get out of that belief system, when that falls away completely, you're not gonna go back and say that, hey, you know what? So this communication doesn't see anyone because there's no one. It's quite obvious, and it's get repeated over and over. It's really simple.
Right.
It's quite yeah. It's just something
But
that is
see,
so.
well, this is the thing though, because
Yeah, yeah,
the Santa story, okay,
yeah.
like
It's just a
constantly,
story.
it's just a story, right?
Yeah.
But you can get into the intricacies of why Santa seems or appears to exist and is told
Mm.
to the people. I mean, you can use an analogy, and I mean, I'm just the funny thing is like for you and I, like let's say,
Yeah.
would you? Let me ask you this:
Yeah, for sure.
Do is it that the two of us here and now, as it appears
Mm.
within, I don't know how you characterize, I think what Tony
Just
calls
an appearance. Yeah.
yeah, or
It's
just the
just what's
appearance. Okay,
happening.
so
It's just
we
what's
appear.
happening.
This is the
Yeah.
totality of happening, not happening.
Okay.
There's nothing outside of it.
I don't like the word totality because it coming from kind of like a location, right? So
Right,
what's
right.
happening, everything that is happening is nothing, that there's nothing outside of this.
Yes.
There's nothing outside of this. Even when this is played, and it's played probably playing right now on YouTube to someone listening, I can say the exact same thing. There's nothing outside of this.
Right. Right. So there's nothing
Yeah.
outside of this. There's
Yeah.
absolutely no universe. Right.
Just all of these are ideas, right?
All of
Ideas
these are
about
ideas.
me, all about ideas about, you know, oneness, ideas about liberation, ideas about not getting this, ideas about Sana,
Mm,
ideas about there's a no me. because an idea that there's no one here can just be another idea,
Mhm.
can just
So
be another concept.
yeah,
So all of this coming out right now is there's nothing outside of this, and all of these are ideas.
yes, yes. But
Mhm.
so is the claim that it's already whole and
So
complete, that there's no Santa. I
yeah,
mean, you can't, I mean, all of that is just, it's just words,
ideas.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's just
So why
words. Yeah.
not expand on
So the idea that's having this
it?
idea is also an idea. It's kind of like, the idea having an
Yeah.
idea, having an idea, having an idea is just an idea. So this idea that is being said right now is coming from an idea. So the idea and the one that's having the idea are both illusory.
Yeah. And can you tell them why?
What's that?
Can you tell them why it's an illusion?
No, I don't know anything. I don't
So,
know. I have no idea why it's just illusory, or there's no one here to know anything.
well,
Yeah.
the mechanism of mind cannot be validated.
No,
So,
no.
right. So the
Nothing can be
mechanism. So
validated. Nothing can
nothing can
be
be validated. So
nothing
you
at
can
all.
explain that. See, what I'm saying is that
Yeah.
a seeker coming and saying
Mm,
to be nipped in the butt as far as like, no, your interaction doesn't exist, and they're confused
mm,
and they're looking at you and they're going, well, why are you saying this? When, like, for example, uh, the speaker will have their own life. Okay, and so when a speaker gets off a stage, he goes and he lives his life. You care about
yeah.
your parents. People have a family.
Oh yeah,
People
yeah.
have friends,
Yeah.
and they live their lives as normal folks, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so here's the speaker coming to you, and you're on the stage, and they're saying, you know, uh, but, and it's like, no. And the next thing you know, they're like, well, I don't get it. And they come back and no. And so they're not taking anything to their life. Whereas what you're saying on stage is not how you're living. And so
Yeah.
the whole premise would be that you're not really helping a person live their
No.
imaginary apparent lives.
No.
You're telling them a story on a stage that has to do with,
Mm.
nothing in particular. I mean, it's just absolute. It's got
Yeah,
nothing
this
to do with
doesn't really,
anything.
everything that I've been talking about doesn't really mean anything,
Right.
including, any statement that I've ever said doesn't really mean anything because nothing really means anything.
Well, I'm not talking about you in
Yeah.
particular. I'm talking about the
Yeah.
message. And see
Yeah.
the message, this message of like it's just this, right?
Yeah.
So, but the it's
And
just this doesn't apply to the speaker's
it
family.
it
You know
it
what I
does
mean?
it everything that is happening is just this, and there's nothing outside of this. So whatever is happening is just what's happening. So applies to anything and everything. Nothing is excluded, right? Nothing is being excluded here, including going to your family, eating some dinner. So it's not, there's this big misconception about this communication, that it's a negation, or it's a denial, or it's a bypassing, or it's a that, actually it's a radical fullness of an expression of the apparent character. So the character, like, for example, after this I will talk to my mom, spend some time with her. Tomorrow I'll hang out with my nephews and my nieces and play with them. So it's there's this, when a statement is being said that there's not no one that's ever been here,
Mhm.
it doesn't mean that the character disappears.
Thank
It's
you.
not a disappearance.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's essentially what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
For whether it's whole or complete or not, you appear
Yeah.
to want to help your parents. You want to help your
Oh,
family.
yeah,
You
yeah,
want to
yeah.
be with people you
Oh,
love.
yeah,
You
yeah.
want comfort for those that you
There,
give a
but
shit
there's no
about.
you. There's no you. It's just an
But there is
appearance.
no right.
Yeah.
So
There's
just
no one
because the
choosing
appearance,
this. Yeah,
right?
there's no one
So,
choosing it. It's just what's happening. As I said, there's nothing happening outside of this. So
right,
if this includes, helping parents and doing that, that's what's appearing to happen.
right. And so the
That's what's
appearance
happening.
of the
Yeah.
appearance of an individual with a free will that wants to help people that they care about
Yeah.
does appear to exist.
Oh, yeah,
It's
yeah. It's
just
just an
not based.
appearance.
It's
Yeah.
just not based in any material actual reality.
No, no,
A
no.
self or existence is completely illusory.
Yeah.
However, within the illusion is an interactive individual that does already deal with the fact that yes, their free will is obviously an illusion, but it is a part of
Yeah.
the
In
apparent
in in the,
person,
yeah, in
and
the
so
dream
it is
there's
interactive.
yeah, in the dream, there seems to be, a person, having choices and having, interactions and everything like that. But it's
Right,
seen as just an appearance.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, but the appearance is all we have,
That's
right?
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
the two of us right here appear as if we are in time and space. And in
Yeah.
my humble opinion, the only thing that we can share in an objectively true sense is that there is no objective truth. That is the one
There's
thing
no
that the
objective
appearance.
truth. Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
from that appearance, you will take the total, or you will take immediate experience with you, with me. Whoever watches this will take it with them, and this and take whatever they want with it. And all of that has to do with the lack of the validatable individual consciousness and all that other kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Forget it, but it all has to do with in that loop of mind, self, brain that can't be validated into this self-aware consciousness, which is a complete story. So we
Yeah.
can get into these things without
Mm.
just saying it's just this, and like because I'll talk to people about this, and the reason why I'm so excited about this is because I know that you're way more forgiving than some, and maybe I've pushed my limit, and maybe I'm
No.
being a jerk here, but I
No.
wanted to make clear was just because it doesn't mean anything, just because there's no reason or purpose, just because
Hmm.
there's no system or mechanism,
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you can't enjoy the appearance of this whatever
Oh, no, there's
medium.
full on aliveness here and full on enjoyment. And it's just because there's no one here. But there's full on expression of this character that is quite beautiful actually. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Interacting with my mom, interacting with my little nieces and nephews, playing with my dog that's 16 years old. In the story, there's an appearance of this character that is living fully. The apparent dropping away of the me in the character exposes the character in its fullness, in its full aliveness, and that's beautiful. So I've been asked this question many times, right? So they ask me, so when there's no Emerson, um, what now? Kind of like, oh, well, actually, you know what? There's this character.
Yeah.
There's this character that is in this appearance that is without a me, without a what do you call it? It's it's just aliveness. It's just this passion coming out. It's just this joyfulness coming out, or maybe anger coming out. But it's this fullness of this unknowing that is can never be defined, um, but appears as a story. Um, it's not a negation. So I like using I speak to a lot of people that are in the beginner spirituality. So
Mhm.
for example, there's a character in a building and the building's on fire.
Mhm.
The character is not going to say nothing is happening. There's no one here. It's going to going to get the
Right,
fuck
right.
out of the building and call the ambulance, the fire department, and um, it's the same as this character, right? This character will continue charactering. So the Emerson will keep on Emersoning, but there's no one here anymore that identifies that belief system. Kind of like when someone asked me, so does Emerson ever come back? I'm going to use this analogy again. Does Santa ever come back? Once you, it just appears as a story. It just appears an appearance, and there's never been anyone here in the first place. There's never been any history because everything that is appearing is just this, and there's nothing outside of this. So there's no time or space for this to exist. It's just disappearing. And
Yes.
this is so obvious and it's so simple that when people ask me if there's no one there, why do you keep on talking about this? Well, I'm like, there's this passion that's coming out from nowhere.
Yeah.
Since there's no choice,
Yeah.
there's no choice to say, well, okay, Howard, let's do this interview.
Well, the beautiful thing along that level, there's everything you say. I have like three things. I'm like, I want to stop you and then
I know
talk.
nothing.
Yeah. Well, it's beautiful because everything you say, I definitely. But that's how it goes with these topics. It's like a thousand things are running through your mind. You forget everything. But the insofar as aliveness. The irony is that I hope you die, and so
Yeah.
you're dead and alive, and so it's these duplicitous
These are just
these
words. Death and
yeah
aliveness are both words, right? And
right.
they don't really exist.
Well, just death and or just life. Are we alive? I mean, do you consider yourself alive?
it's just aliveness happening. There's just this whatever is happening. Yeah,
Okay,
there's
so
this aliveness
so
happening.
so the funny thing is that these duplicitous words and
You
like
could
and
also
by
that death is happening.
yeah,
Yeah,
but well,
the same
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the appearance of both not happening at all, but it's both and neither. But the funny thing is that it's the duplicitous language. Okay, all words are
Yeah.
duplicitous.
Yeah,
So
true or false are words, good or evil are words, unconditional love,
right,
death are both words. When I was doing a meeting, some people wanted just to hear me this they wanted to hear unconditional love over and over again. So one time I opened with this is death.
yeah, yeah.
And there
Well,
was silence.
well, the thing about the duplicitous words is that you have to use binary phrasing in that
Mm,
it is and it isn't.
yeah,
It is and everything is
yeah,
and isn't. It's real
yeah.
and unreal. It's true and untrue. And like Santa Claus does exist on some in some capacity, in that the story of Santa exists. And so people will people will say it's a Christmas miracle, and that could exist to them on some level. So you can't really say Santa doesn't exist, but you can say it's very highly
Nothing
unlikely
exists.
that a physical unicorn exists. But see, but nothing exists, but it appears as if there
Yeah,
is separation.
I get caught up with language, right? Because there's no position and there's no source in where this is coming from. So the language seems to arrive at something, but this is like arriving and not arriving at the same time.
Yes.
This doesn't go anywhere because
Well, I think
this
it's
is
arriving and
nowhere.
departing simultaneously.
Yeah,
It
yeah, yeah.
literally,
That's what I meant. Yeah,
it's like a cross
yeah,
and juxtaposed lines that forever
yeah,
run horizontally. It
yeah,
is happening simultaneously.
and
I
not
mean, not
happening at the
happening,
same time.
happening, not happening.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
uh,
something akin
yeah.
to
Isn't
simultaneity.
that so simple though?
Yes.
Because when the I don't want to call seekers seekers, but when the
Yeah.
explorer is gonna like seeker
Yeah.
whatever, it's just
Yeah, I like
words.
explorer. I like that.
Explorer is gonna call
I've been looking up for a word for
explorer.
seekers.
Yeah,
Seeker sounds
forever
like it's a
exploring
negative.
into
Yeah,
nothingness.
yeah, yeah.
So when the
Exploring. I like.
exploring keeps on happening, it tries
Yeah,
to land at a position, land at a conclusion, land at this.
right.
This person is not enlightened. There's no such thing as enlightenment because there's no one to get enlightened.
Mhm.
But the apparent explorer keeps on trying to catch some of this. It's like trying to catch air with the butterfly net.
Yes.
They're trying to catch something. It can't be
Has
caught.
nothing to do with thought. Yeah, right.
No, no, no. So everything that's coming out of this conversation is actually meaningless,
Yes.
and
There is
it's
no thought. There is
no,
no thought.
no,
There is no knowledge. There is no
no,
thought. There is no
no, because who is going to have the thought, who's going to have the knowledge, and is going
right.
to have that. Um, and again, you know what? It seems like this is coming from a position, but it's just obviousness that I can't explain. I don't know where this is coming from.
Well, see, and for me, that's the beauty of it, in that this apparent here and now, or whatever you want to call it, um, whatever this is not. It's not. There's not an inside to it or an outside to it. It's not relative to
No,
another
there's no inside
position.
outside.
So
Yeah,
it's not an object in everything that seems to be within the purview of, let's say, the parameters of one's perception. That being the illusion that there is one here, being aware of something there. In
yeah. There's
that,
no one aware. Yeah,
right? Well,
yeah,
see, this is something that I'd like to touch on. Like, in the same way that a chair chairs and the Coca-Cola bottle of Coca-Colas, Howard Howard's, right? And
yeah.
so it's not that I am consciously aware actually means something, but what it is that I am simply another apparent object that so happens to have the apparent free will and subject object attached, or it's just part of the makeup of the object of Howard. So it's not so much that I am aware of other things; it's that that is the story of the apparent
Yeah.
self of object or self of Howard. So it's and paradoxically, this is tying in with awareness in that uh, the immediate experience is within, a lot of people would say, awareness, and outside of awareness
Hmm.
lies what?
Well, there's this story of awareness. There's this dream of awareness. But when there's this awakeness, there's no one aware because there's no one to be aware.
Right.
There's no one been, but there's this apparent ongoing dream of awareness of a character of Howard or something. But in this awakeness, in this aliveness, in this unknowingness,
Mhm.
there's no awareness. Everything is just happening as it is, um, for no one, and it's
So,
happening um, like this and this and this and this.
right.
Um,
So I'm sorry, but
yeah, yeah,
okay, if there's no awareness, okay,
yeah.
here's the fun part. What does subject object look like to you? I mean,
Um,
like, what is the veneer
there's no
of what is
subject and no object. I don't even understand that right now, to be honest with you, because there's no one, there's no one. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense anymore. This
so
is
you're
this
saying
doesn't make sense at all. It doesn't
so
see any kind of separation. It doesn't see any kind of a subject or an object or someone getting something. A person trying to be awake is a subject object kind of like thing. It doesn't, because it doesn't see anyone. It's
I
it's
kind of
yeah. So
I'm
go ahead.
sorry. Go ahead, please. I'm so sorry.
No, yeah, yeah.
Well,
It's just one of those things that apparently dropped away. You know what I'm saying? Just that idea of it's just seen as an idea.
okay,
Yeah.
for example, like with me, and I've
Yeah.
had people, my friend, the people that I love dearly and respect highly, uh, say no, absolutely not. There's no, I don't strobe in and out of subject object awareness as it appears. Okay, and whereas I, throughout the day, will will go from already whole and complete to subject object interactive
Yeah,
and
yeah.
back and forth, and so it goes back and forth to me. I can actually be a part of an interactive crew without even really kind of being on autopilot, but acknowledging that it appears as if I am interacting with my free will and
Yeah.
a completely unknowable and
Yeah.
in different environment and other people that appear conscious. So all of that appearance is what appears to be happening simultaneously. It is already
Mm,
whole and complete. And
mm,
see, the defineless focus of uh, whatever you want to call self in this paradigm can go for one or the other or be in both simultaneously. I don't see it as um, separate. It's like, for example, separation itself is not separate. I'm not saying that separation doesn't appear, but
mm,
separation itself isn't separate. So in that way, so for me, it seems like I can tell you that subject object is obviously the illusion of an individual that thinks that they are
mm,
observing another thing, but that mechanism does appear from time to time. And you're saying that
mm-hmm.
no, that never happens.
Yeah. I don't really know how to explain that, Howard, because I used to get caught up in explaining the subject object, in attaining this and a subject, um, but it doesn't really make sense to me. So I'm actually at a loss for words right now on how to explain that, because it just sees this as um, empty fullness, everything happening as this, and there's nothing missing from this, and there's no you or I. It's just
I just
appearing
see
as
it as an
this.
apparent.
As an apparent appearance, there's a subject and object. You know what I'm saying? As an apparent appearance. But when it's just seen clearly, it can't unsee that there has never been a subject and an object. I don't know how to explain it more than that. I'm at a lack of again, I'm not the most brilliant at explaining this. But I'm
But
just trying to
no,
see as how it sees here, and how it can and trying to even wrap around, trying to kind of like, I don't see it in a way that yeah, I can see it in as an apparent story, you know what I'm saying, as an apparent idea that there's a subject and object, but it's just seen clearly that there's never been anything like that. So
yes,
this
yes,
is
it's not.
so
It's not
everything.
actually.
Yeah, so what's seemingly happening right now is just an appearance of this apparent character talking to each other, but it's just seen as this um unseparated, boundless happening that is nothing speaking to nothing. So there's no subject and object because it's zero speaking to zero. Speaking is just happening, but from no one.
So how do you equate that with your apparent free will when you're dealing with your family and your environment?
There's no such thing as free will, right? There's no such thing
But
as free
you
will.
apparent, but it's apparent. That's
Uh
the apparency is all we have.
oh, my
Yeah.
parents, my parents.
No. The
Oh, the
apparency of
appearance, the
the
appearance.
individual, the character that is interacting with your
It doesn't
family.
see, it doesn't really see an individual now interacting with the family. It's just interaction happening,
Right. Well,
right?
I
It's just
agree with that.
yeah. It's just gonna like when I see in the narrative, you know what I'm saying. I would have to say Emerson is interacting with the mom, and everything,
Okay.
but it just sees it as this um an
It's just
arising.
apparent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's the kindness that happens. There's loving that happens. There is interaction that happens, but it's appearing as this,
Yes.
and there's
Yes.
nothing outside of this, right?
Yes. Now
Um,
I completely agree. Yes.
yeah, and it's it seems to be mind-boggling, but it's really not, right? Because
No,
it's
it's
just
actually quite liberating. It's very peaceful.
yeah,
It is the appearance of a character going through a life, but
yeah.
it's not any of that, and
No,
it just appears to be.
it's
You
like
know, it
it's
just
just like life lifing itself, right? It's just
yes.
this, yeah, it's just life happening. It's
It,
just
it,
this
it,
happening, and it's not happening to anyone. So there's no personalization to anything,
yes.
and
Yes.
that is just so
It-
fucking beautiful.
I,
Um,
I completely
forgive my
agree.
French.
I am French.
Oh, you are.
French German, yeah. And you're Filipino, was it?
Filipino, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I got my tonsils taken out in the Philippines.
Oh, nice. But yeah,
But
it's just this beautiful expression of nothing appearing as everything simultaneously, apparently, and
yeah,
it's
and
innocent, and that's just like it's yeah, it's completely wordless, right? This is wordless, and us even attempting to describe what is what isn't.
yeah. The moment you try to name it, it's not that.
No, no,
So,
no,
yeah. And
no.
it's not any you can't even. I mean, even if you yeah, it's just it's completely untenable insofar as language is concerned because language is duplicitous and what we're talking about is not, and so it's
No, no.
impossible to speak on.
It's innocence. Innocence. This is innocence. And the
I love that.
innocence, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, please go ahead. I'm so sorry. I
No,
drank too
no,
much
no, no. In this
wine.
innocence, there's this laughter, there's this instant tears, instant crying, sadness, but it's not happening to anyone because if it's innocence, it's pure, there's no one there. It's just innocence. There's no one there. It's just innocence happening. So all of this is just innocence appearing as whatever.
Yeah.
It's like a game playing a game for no one. It's like when you play a game when you're a kid, you can like playing hide and seek. You know, you go hide and seek, and then you turn around, and everyone that was supposed to hide is looking at you, and no one is hidden. And then you're like, ready or not, here I come. And then you open up your eyes, and you're like, oh, everything is already, no one is hidden. And then everyone's saying, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. This is already here.
Right.
Nothing's been hidden.
Yeah,
So trying to come up with words as something that is unhidden and something that is gloriously looking, not looking, but gloriously displayed in front with no veils, nothing obscuring it. It's just this perfectness, and also the imperfectness that is just appearing as this that cannot be described as this.
it's perfectly imperfect. No matter what is going on,
Yeah.
it is absolutely perfect. I had a situation the other day where, yeah, no, uh, I'll, I'll leave that one. Why are you? Can I ask you why you're a vegetarian? Can I ask you why you're a vegetarian?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not a vegetarian.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
thought you said you were a vegetarian.
No, 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 no. I was a vegetarian before because the character wanted to purify, was trying to be a saint, trying to be better than it was, trying to avoid this. So when a character tries to be, well, this is just the character, but yeah, it tried to be vegan, but with the hopes of eternal bliss. But that's just a story. Vegetarianism, eating meat, being vegan are all stories. There's nothing wrong or right about vegan or vegetarian. There's also nothing wrong or right about eating meat. Um, it's just a story.
I think that's the terrifying part to a lot of explorers. I mean, as they say, is that there is no wrong or right. There is no true or there is no
But
moral.
isn't
There
that
is no
isn't
morality at all. And I think people, I think, flip out about that.
and again, you know what I'm saying? A character, for example, trapped in a building, would either kind of like call the ambulance. The character is going to be still charactering, so it means that when the me drops away from the character, that the character is going to go on a rampage and start looting and stealing and killing people
Mhm.
because there's no one there.
Yeah.
The character is going to be the character is going to be still funny, still
Mhm.
sarcastic, still dark, whatever, because there's nothing wrong or right. So the character is still going to be the character,
Mhm.
but there is a depersonalized character. It's not attached to that. I have to get enlightened. I have to find liberation because there's no I anymore.
Well,
Liberation's
there's
already
no
happening.
reality. Yeah, there's no
There's
objective
no such
reality
thing
to
as
the
reality.
intent.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So once that tether to that object of truth is gone, then the person is essentially just appearing as, and you can do no wrong or right. It has nothing to do with
There's
that
no
kind of
choice
dimension.
anyway to do wrong or
Yeah,
right. There's
exactly.
no choice to do wrong or right.
Well,
And it's
or I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah. No, no, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Again, I'd like to say that yes, there is no choice, but there appears to be, and
Oh yeah, in the
within that
appearance, every
appearance of choice, you still can't do wrong or right. Even within the appearance of a free will,
well,
there is no.
it's let me give you another analogy, right? So there's this guy that's driving a car that's driving kind of like for maybe about 6 hours now, and just kind of like, did I make a wrong turn or a right turn? Did I kind of like miss a couple of stop signs? Am I following the speed limit? And then someone taps on the side and say, "Hey, buddy, did you know that you've been driving a Tesla for the past 6 hours and it's self-driving? There's never been anyone driving,
Right.
so there's no free
Yeah.
will, no choice. How can there be?"
Well, but see, in the same way that there's no car and there's no
Yeah,
road,
yeah. I'm just
in
making
the
an
same.
analogy. Maybe it's a bad
Right.
analogy, but
Well,
I'm just trying to say that there's no one in control.
right. Well, then there were,
Yeah.
it's like there's nobody falling, but like you said, I like I love that you use love because, or like unconditional love, because um, you know, I used to say talking to dualists, or people that think that they actually exist and there's a source and energy is real and all that kind of stuff. For they think that they're enlightened and all these other things, and they appear. It's like Dancing with the Dead. It's the
Oh,
it's
it's
the
just innocence too. That's also innocence.
yeah, they think they're
Yeah.
alive and actually
Yeah.
they're dead. Whereas
Yeah, that's
I
innocence.
think I don't even exist, and everything seems to brighten up. And it's so weird because it's not that when the self drops away, it is actually everything seems lighter, everything seems brighter. I think the entire thing is enlightened, and the thinglessness itself, it just appears sourcelessly, simultaneously. Um, just out of nothing, spontaneously and sourcelessly, spontaneously, and whatever the
see,
heck.
see,
And
words jumble up this stuff, right?
yeah,
It just jungles it up, right? It's
it
so
just
perfectly
appears.
clear already.
Yeah,
It's so perfectly clear already that there's never
right,
been anyone here in the first
right,
place.
right.
And it's just so obvious. And to say anything other than that, and to coddle up, someone, something that is so obvious, is telling a lie.
Yes. Yes. Also, to uh, say that the apparent character is not going to appear to make choices is also incorrect. Wouldn't you say?
In the story, there's an appearance of everything. Everything is
Right.
allowed in this appearance, choices,
Right.
no choices, or whatever. So if
Right.
there's a belief that there's a choice happening, that's also appearing as it is. It's also what is. Nothing is excluded.
Right. Right.
So everything
So
is
there's no
happening
apparent
as this.
reality to it, but it does appear to be.
It.
You
Oh
know.
yeah, there's an appearance for everything. Everything is allowed. There's an appearance of enlightenment. In the dream, people think that they're enlightened,
Right.
and then they tell everybody that they're enlightened, and that's completely all right.
This is probably a bad move.
That's
Usually
just
it
innocence
doesn't end
appearing,
well.
innocence appearing as whatever. All right, that's
Yeah.
unconditional love appearing as someone having a dream of enlightenment, and there's nothing wrong or right about that.
Well, I had a guy tell me the other day that love does not exist, and I understand that that is true. However, unconditional love is a good way to explain why somebody why the appearance of an individual who is suffering may be at your doorstep. Could you expand on like what you mean by unconditional love?
Unconditional love, it just this innocence that everything is allowed, everything is allowed, nothing is excluded,
Yes,
nothing is denied, everything in its
and that
fullness,
you
in
don't
its
have a
blackness.
choice.
No, yeah, unconditional love is happening. This is what's happening. There's
Yes.
nothing outside of unconditional love. Unconditional love is everything that you could ever, the good, the bad, the ugly is unconditional love.
Yes.
And everything in between, and everything beyond, and everything before.
Yeah. I had a
But it
lady the other
sees
day,
nothing.
but it's still nothing. It just appears
Yeah,
as
yeah,
something like
yeah. It's nothing.
it
Yeah,
appears as pain.
yeah.
I had a lady come the other day, and we were talking, and she had lost it. You know, she apparently was already dead, and all that kind of she's quote unquote enlightened, not enlightened, whatever you want to say, and but she said, Howard, I'm losing it, and she was, this can't be love. This cannot be unconditional love because she was dying. And so we went through this process that I used to get through painful periods and physical pain, mental pain, whatever. And, it seemed like that was the reality unto itself, even though it was just an appearance for her to be able to get through that and see it for what it was. It's love. It's literally not you in pain, but pain appearing as love. And instead of running from that, actually become instead of running from that, the whole idea that there's a self here in pain, become the pain. And usually that dissipates. I just wanted to put that in there for what it's worth. It works sometimes. Just become the pain and it dissipates.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
unconditional love. There's a lot of misconception about unconditional love, because people think it's an attainment. People think it's a being or a soul or everything, that is not. Unconditional love is undefinable because it's appearing as everything. Unconditional love seems to be unattainable because it's appearing as attainable as everything. Unconditional love is appearing as this. This is unconditional love. And there's nothing outside of unconditional love because there's no outside or inside. Um, and it's already, and unconditional love is not a source or not a location or not a destination. It's this ever flowing unknowingness of this is the unconditionality of what's appearing.
So you would say that
The
it's sourceless, that
It's
what
sourceless,
appears
yeah.
to be is
There's
completely
there's
sourceless.
it's completely sourceless, yeah. Well, that seems to be a destination again, but it's sourcelessness ing
Yeah,
keeps on,
sourceless is
there's
for lack of a,
yeah, words always trip up, right?
it's just impossible.
Yeah.
Um,
And again, there's just so much enjoyment and passion happening here, talking about nothing, absolutely nothing. This conversation is not
I
leading to
love it.
anything, and I keep on repeating it that there's nothing happening outside of this,
Mhm.
um, and this is everything and nothing.
If you had a million years to describe this moment, could you?
There's no million years.
Right.
It's
But
just
no, if you had
yeah.
infinite time, if you
This is
as
infinite time. There's no. This
so,
is timelessness already. This
so
is
can you
timelessness
describe it?
already. I don't know because there's no one here um, to know. You know what I'm
So that
saying? It's
would be a
just
no.
yeah.
So the most I'm just humbly saying
I
that
don't. The
the most
answer is I
grand
don't
moment.
know. I don't know. I have no
So the
idea.
most
Yeah.
the grandest assumption would be even the most humble moment could never be explained.
It can never be explained. No, no. This is both grand and humble.
Yes.
This is just perfection, imperfection, and it's beyond the dualistic words, right? But it's so simple, and then I see teachers trying to add something to this that cannot be added to, adding ideas to something that is already full and completely unknowing itself, um,
Mhm.
and then trying to add processes and levels and how to get here and there and all this kind of stuff to
Mhm.
something that is glowingly unconditionally available but for no one.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
just the appearance of peace.
what's that?
The appearance of peace
Yeah.
seems to arise on occasion.
Seems to arise. Yeah, seems to arise. It's just this beautiful unknowing, the unraveling, the uncreating, um, undescribable sourcelessness, seamlessness, the disappearing for not this moment because there's no moments.
Yeah. Like I love what you say. Always here with no end or beginning, and I totally
Mm,
agree.
yeah,
It seems to me that much like our crossroads and juxtaposed two straight lines that'll never intersect, it seems like it's both infinite and finite in the most simple sense. It's both because you could not explain
both and both not.
both, but it is and it isn't. Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So, insofar as it's a dream, and we're living in that dream of our parents. Um, how do you deal with grief? How do you deal
Oh, you know what? That
crying and
grieving
emotion?
actually. Um, let me tell you a story about the character Emerson. When Emerson was growing up, he was the firstborn of three male kids and a female kid. So I was kind of like I had to be tough, right? So they would be pulling out my molar, and I would not show tears, and all that kind of stuff. Or somebody would be yelling at me, and I would show, like no fear. When this apparent dropping away, you know what I'm saying, of this held on to belief that there's someone that has to please dad or whatever. My aunt passed away last year during COVID, and then we saw her funeral through Zoom. There was this explosion of grief that happened, but for no one. It was just grieving. It was just grieving. So if there was an Emerson there, he would have held, puffed out his chest, and not cry, and then take care of everybody. Because there's no one holding on to anymore because there's never been anyone here. There seems to be a dropping away of that held on to belief of what grief should be. So grieving happened in a very deep way. It was in bed for a couple of days and just crying for no reason. You know, it was just this beautiful expression of this character. You know, with liquid leaking from his eyes and sobbing coming out from his mouth. Yeah. So again, there's this belief system again. The belief system that when there's an apparent dropping away of a me or someone, that there seems to be a stoicness or like like this no feelings or whatever. Feelings are arising at this conversation, there's this passion coming out. So why not grief? Laughter seems to arise quite fast, and I can laugh at. Why not grief? Why not anger? So the idea that there's this no more grieving or no pain or something like that, or it's just another idea. Everything is allowed in this unconditionality. Nothing is excluded. So when everything is allowed includes grief, pain, but grief is just grieving itself. Pain is paining, anger is angering. But because there's no holding on to these stories anymore, because there's no more storyteller, the storyteller has been called out as a storyteller. So the stories are seen as a story, kind of like watching a movie. Some movie affects you, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, that was a great movie. But walking out and having this apparent apparent experience of a movie is the same thing as seen as these stories of this charactering and grieving or laughing or something. There's nothing to hold on to because everything is unraveling, unfolding, and it never ends. It's a never ending unfolding.
I loved. I watched. I watched Tim Cliff's one of his links. This is months ago. It was classic. Somebody asked him if he still gets mad, and he says, "I get madder now. I get madder now because I know I can, and it doesn't matter." He says, "I lose it. I lose it when I lose it. I lose it big. I
it's
let it
it's
go."
it's like the characters unhinged because there's no one, whispering stories about what could be and what could not be, right? The
Right.
what should be and what should have not been, and all this kind of like narratives of that is based in time, right? It's kind of like, oh, it's so when it's kind of like a child, there's this innocence here, that there's easy to giggle. I laugh at the most stupidest things, and then there's this, or I cry at the
Oh my
silliest,
God! Forget
oh,
about
like
it, man.
YouTube stuff,
I cry all the
man.
time. It's crazy.
It's because there's no one trying to be an adult anymore, because there's never been anyone here. This is just an expression in its fullness and its beautifulness and its lackness at the same time of this apparent story called this.
So amazing.
Yeah.
I agree with you. If anything, yeah, I laugh, I cry, I get mad, I get angry. I mean, it's just, it's so weird. It's almost like it feels like I'm a marionette, and nobody's pulling my strings, but it's just happening anyways.
It's a it's
There's
a
nobody.
stringless marionette, like
It's
no
just strictly,
strings.
and
No
seriously.
strings
I mean,
attached.
yeah, it really is that way. Along that line of no time, um, how do you like? Do you have a favorite like ancient teacher, like so the older guys?
No, not really. All of that seemed to have fallen away because there was, liking teachers before. I used to have a book of quotes that I liked, and like I would write quotes with famous teachers, enlightened teachers, self-realized teachers. I don't want to name names anymore because I keep on getting in trouble with that.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
And this is your channel, so I don't want you to get in trouble. Um, so I used to kind of like, write, quotes from these famous dead guys, and I used to held on to those belief system because I thought it was coming from a lineage, coming from a source. So when the jig is up, when when you see it as it is, it can't be unseen that all of these are stories, and all of the held on to pedestals crumbles, because if there's
Yes,
no one, how could there be pedestals?
yes, and,
Who is it going to hold?
along that frame of reference, and this is funny because of the subject object thing, but for example, like when I read something, whether it be from current or ancient, it doesn't matter. I'm not reading it as a person wrote this in another time or another place. They have an intellect, and they're exchanging an idea with a reader, and I happen to be that reader at this moment who exists in another place and time. And it just seems like, it, particularly with the appearance of writing in along these subjects, um, that if you read it as if it appears just like the Coke bottle or the chair or the lamp or you howarding, all of it just appears simultaneously. and sourcelessly, and even whatever background you might know about the author, all of it just kind of appears in that from nowhere, and in a lot of respects, um, I just what is written about non-duality seems to make sense if you read it like that, or when I read it like that, when I'm in that frame of reference where it's just not even me reading something, but the appearance of an individual reading something.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's pretty. So I'm kind of like watching myself read something, and
Yeah.
watching that
Yeah,
interaction.
there's no more seeking here, so there's no more reading of of teachers or anyone actually. But I do enjoy Dune, the
Oh
new
man,
Dune,
that's my
Frank
favorite,
Herbert.
man.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, he's my
um,
favorite.
I was I listened to like 20 hours of it, and I was like, this is so
I
epic.
read him.
But before, when there was seeking happening, there was a getting to somewhere.
Mhm. Yeah.
There was
Well,
getting
see,
to there was getting to know something. But now it's just entertainment. But I have to pause
yeah,
this for a moment. I'm just going to go to a washroom.
absolutely.
I'll be right
Thank you
back.
so much. I'll pause this. Hang on.
Okay.
Okay. Uh, okay. Now that we got the amenities taken care of, I say we take a shot. Emerson, I'm going to take
Cheers.
a shot at tequila, sir. How about you? What you got over there?
I've got a single malt whiskey,
Cheers, brother.
Macallan. Ah, cheers.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh yeah, yeah. There was this when I was there's a story when I was a spiritual teacher. I was a spiritual teacher for about 10, 15 years. I can't remember timelines anymore.
Me
Um,
neither.
I got caught drinking a bottle of beer, and someone gasped and they said, "Emerson, you have, along comes with power is responsibility. If people see you drinking." So of course I went to my mentors, and which I still love. I don't talk to them anymore. Um, but they come from a lineage where it's also purifying, all that kind of stuff like that. So this communication liberates the apparent character into this.
Yes.
It sees nothing wrong or right about drinking a glass of single malt whiskey. It doesn't see anything. There's just pure innocence.
Yes.
It's just pure innocence, and it doesn't see wrong or right. But the character, of course, is still going to be good or bad. It doesn't see good or bad, but the character is going to be as it is. But without the anchor of that, should I do this? Should I not do this? Because there's no one that can do this or not do this.
In the same way that the two of us are not separate,
Yeah.
and there is no separation, and we are wholeness appearing as two individuals
Mm.
communicating information,
Yeah.
right? Um, in its truest sense, there are no questions or answers. We are not
No.
separate.
No.
And so, in a lack of
These are just
separation, there's no
basically
one to ask and no
these
one.
are just ramblings about
Right.
nothing, because what's being spoken about, what's being trying to be talked about, is already appearing as everything.
Right. And so, but the coolest thing about that is, and then what I
Yeah.
find fascinating is, and this is not a doer speech, this is the
Yeah.
lack of a doer in a
There's
spontaneous,
never been a doer. Yeah.
sourceless sense, right? This just emerges or appears as the two of us having a conversation. And I love it um, when it goes to a God, because the
Mm.
reason why I love this is because it's almost, to me, it's playful. It's like what appears is actually playful,
Yeah.
because it's not two, okay, appearing as individuals discussing whether or not there's a creator for what already is. And so
Yeah.
it's a prank of all time, because there can't be a God is duplicitous. And I mean, if a God is everything, what is he the God of, or she the God of,
Yeah.
or it the God of? And if a God is not everything, then what is not God? And so the whole funny thing about the conversation, as it seems to have permeated the apparent life of Howard, is that the whole time, this whole discussion of a deity is just the wrong question altogether. It's funny because it seems as if uh, the, and I know you hate the totality, but immediate experience is expressing itself as
I
individuals
don't like the word
talking about whether
experience
or not.
too. It's just the
I don't
immediate.
either. I don't like awareness. I don't like experience. I don't like any of it. I mean, what is it?
Yeah.
Unconditional love is about as close as you can get in that there's no choice. You find yourself in this situation. You find your apparent self in this situation of no reality or definition or cause or effect or anything. And but you're this weirdness of a character finds themselves in a situation of no objective truth. And so what happens is these weird conversations within the appearance of separation in that it's a lack of separation appearing as separation, talking about whether there should be a creator or not.
Mm.
It's funny. It just seems whimsical at
Yeah, yeah.
times.
And the belief that there's a creator or not a creator is also a belief.
Yes.
They're both beliefs, right? So saying that there's no God or all is God is also a belief. Um, and it just kind of like if to bulldozer it into simplicity, there's just nothing happening.
Okay. Let's get into that paradox if you don't mind.
No,
Do you
no,
mind?
no,
Okay,
no.
the
Yeah.
paradox of awareness, like
Hmm.
saying that the individual silence doesn't exist but appears to exist within this medium, and it appears to be aware, and you cannot go beyond the apparent awareness.
Hmm.
So the thing about it is, to say that there is something beyond awareness would be a belief of an individual that has no objectively real actuality, so to speak.
Well, let me get into simplify that, right? Because you know what, um, for awareness to happen, there has to be one has to be aware.
Yes.
When that is completely shut down, meaning that when it's completely fallen away or dropped away or seen as something that can never be unseen, that there's never been anyone, all that awareness, all of that dream, all of that stories, all of that tales, all of these ideas, concepts, belief systems falls away at the same time.
Mm.
And um, and when there's a grasping at these ideas or the awareness or something, there
Mm.
seems to be a struggle that's apparently happening
Mm.
for an identity to happen.
Mm.
When it's completely free of identity, when there's no identity whatsoever,
Mm.
it's just happening as this in fullness and completeness and a never-ending fullnessness. I can't even explain it. Um,
Mm.
the idea, all of these ideas, all of these thought systems, seems to disappear. Seems to be a narrative. So when the narrative and the narrator is seen as false,
Mm.
is seen as not really happening, all that you can say is that there's nothing happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, I like to say happening, not happening. Everything is
Oh yeah, yeah,
duplicitous.
yeah. Again, words are just words, trying to point at something that is
Duplicitous,
wordless.
duplicitous words and binary phrasing. I
But
mean,
words
that's
are
what this
but words are also it. Words is
words
also
are
what's
in.
happening. Yeah. It's also what's happening. It's all allowed, right?
How about can I ask you, like,
Yeah.
I talked to Nancy and several of the writers. I like to get frilly with the pen on occasion, and or appear to, and it always seems best when, like, I don't even have anything, like, the apparent Howard has nothing to do with what is being written. Like, the pen actually just writes the thing. It writes
The
itself.
pen
You don't
always
even
writes
you're not
itself. It doesn't
yeah.
doesn't need a Howard.
Right.
Yeah.
So even with the appearance of Howard getting involved with, like, editing and stuff like that, I find it's always best just to allow the pen to write what it's going to write, and leave it
There's
be.
no one allowing it to. It just writes by itself.
Yeah, it just
Yeah.
writes what it
Yeah.
is what
It
it is
just does what
without.
does without any Howard whatsoever, because there's never been a Howard in the first place,
Right.
and never will be or never had been.
Right.
Um,
Well, the apparent ability to do that,
yeah,
as Andres always does, he always
so to speak,
yeah,
apparently. Yeah.
so to speak, right? He's,
Yeah.
he's great, man. Um,
I'm
it's,
not I'm not that quite quite linguistically gifted. You know what I'm saying? And Reyes is beautiful in his
he's
language.
I love the
Jim
first one I ever.
Newman, Kenneth Madden,
Yeah,
Tony Parsons,
yeah.
um, beautiful, beautiful communication, um, yeah,
Honestly, my favorite stuff with Tony is when he's just talking about it, just ripping about apparencies and just different
mm,
stories and so I really love when he's just being creative in an
yeah,
apparent creative sense. Um, I, you know, I just love that
yeah,
because it's just the apparent Tony, being Tonying, and usually it is absolutely just fascinating and beautiful, and he's really good.
oh yeah, yeah. I
He's
do
really good.
I love communicating with them. It's just this people would think that when you communicate with Tony you'd be talking about it's just the most loving um
Right.
thing. He's like my imaginary grandpa.
Well, and that's kind of the thing that got me started about the whole thing, the stage versus the life of the speaker, because it's not like in the same way that a seeker or an explorer doesn't come from or goes to watch a speaker. In the same way that the speaker doesn't live in that reality as he's on the stage talking like that, he in his apparent self, the seeker also, or the explorer also, doesn't live in that role as a seeker. So the whole thing, that kind of dynamic, it just seems, forgive me, but it just seems a little sterile at times, and I think that's um, it's one of those things where if you get too deep, if you ask a question, oh, it's just a mystery, and then
But isn't that
well,
unconditional love? Isn't that pure compassion happening when it's just said it is pure mystery rather than explaining something that is a narrative? This communication cuts to that bullshit basically and shows it for what it is in its simple
yeah,
form. And that's why this communication seems to be repetitious, seems to be boring, seems to be this and that, because what is being described is completely and utterless. It's just completely unutterable. It's
yeah,
something that is already simplistically appearing as everything.
yeah,
There's nothing lacking in it. So to add something that is already fully and complete is creating a narrative, and then taking the seeker is it's kind of like speaking to someone when there's no one there.
well, in the
So
same
it's like
way
a
though,
long con. It's like a con, right?
well,
So
in the same way that
what I appreciate about this communication is its razor sharpness of delivery of seeing that there's never been anyone.
well, I don't know, because
I know.
you could say, I don't know, because at the same time you could say if it is a mystery, that means that it has been pondered, and that means
Hmm.
that you have some perspective on it, and why not share the perspective rather than be dismissive? You see what I mean?
What if the speaker is just basically kind of like dumbfounded and just saying that, well, it's a mystery, I can't explain it, it's just honesty.
Uh, well, that's one thing, but if it's
Yeah.
dismissive, then it's another. I see a lot of times what I see is that
There's
um,
a perception that this dismissive, but when it's just being delivered and it's kind of like almost like a cutthroat kind of like way of saying that, well, there's nothing happening.
right.
Yeah,
Well,
it's being
yeah,
honest.
yeah, kind of, but it's also being kind of cherry picking too, because you're cherry
Yeah.
picking what is just this when it seems easy to do, and then when challenged on it, then all of a sudden it's a mystery and you don't want to talk about it. So, I mean, it seems
Uh,
like, you
I don't
know,
see it that way. I see it as clarity, in a sense that if because the seeker is trying to look for a kind of like when you're climbing a mountain, you know what I'm saying, kind of like climbing a summit and there's no
yeah,
summit, and then you're holding on to things, and there's no getting way, no way that you'll ever get there. So you're telling the seeker that, well, there's no way of getting here.
yeah, I
Might as well give up.
understand.
Might as well
Well,
give
I
up.
understand. It's like, but maybe this is maybe this is the burr that I have in my side, about it. In that, it seems like every time a question is posed, and that you can be wrong. Just asking a question, you're wrong already. Just being there,
Mhm.
you're already wrong.
There's nothing wrong
So,
or right. No, no, no,
right.
no,
Well,
no.
yes, but see, and here's the thing.
It just clips the wings of hope, because there's hopefulness that's happening. You know, there's a hope that's saying that maybe I can get this. Maybe I will get this. Maybe I will get there. So when
Well,
it's said that you will not get there because there's no you to get there,
yeah,
that's the
yeah.
kindest thing ever. That's
Yeah,
unconditional
kind
love.
of. I
It
don't know.
is.
I think it could be a cop out though, because it can be explored further, and you can explain why it is a mystery or why it cannot be answered,
Yeah.
instead of just saying it's just this and saying
We've been talking about the whole night why it can't be answered, because words are going to, not be able to express what is.
yeah,
And that's what's just being said, right?
uh,
I can
yes,
see the
but
most floral words, and I can say that the soul will levitate into oneness after, this, but that's just bullshit.
right,
Yeah.
but so is everything that's being said. Everything that's being said is complete nonsense. I
It
mean,
is
because
nonsense, but but words can resonate, and it can clip,
thank you.
words
Yeah.
can resonate, you know what I'm saying? Energetically. If it's being communicated to no one.
If I
But when
was
it's
if I was this,
but when it's intended for someone, then you are giving hope to someone that's never been there.
I don't know, because I think it has more to I think it has more to do with the capacity of the speaker to stay on a message rather than explore what is basically
Try. Why
appearing
don't
to
you
happen
try?
in the moment.
Why don't you try? Try explaining something that is, trying giving hope to someone that doesn't have any hope
Well,
because it's never been there.
I don't have to give
Yeah.
somebody hope
Yeah.
in order to answer why something is unanswerable, but I can expand on that. And
We
it's
can it can also you can also repeat, that words are going to, words are always going to be you know they're dualistic, right? You
yeah,
can say that over and over again. These words are
yeah,
dualistic and they don't mean anything. What's
yeah,
being talked about here is just energetic, and there's when there seems to be an openness, there seems to be an openness and to the appearance of this, and what's being talked about can never be explained because it's inexplicable. Explicable, I don't know,
yeah.
and it's just a communication that's radical. It's uncompromising because it's razor sharply communicating that there's never been anyone here in the first place, and it's
Mm.
just the obviousness and the simplicity of this communication is just that.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I
It
know.
seems. I think it's it can be limiting in a sense, because what essentially is
But
being
limiting for
said.
who? Limiting
Well,
for who?
well, not limiting for who? I mean, whether it's limiting or not, it's the same person that it's not limiting for. So,
Yeah.
in the same sense that there is a Q and A going on, there is, a seeker and a speaker that appear to be.
But the seeker usually is looking for some answers that will will kind of like, what do you call it? Acknowledge that there's someone there that
Right.
is
But see,
trying
there are
to.
no questions or answers, right? Because there's nobody
There's no
here.
questions or answers. There's no one there as well, and it's just a communication that's happening for no one, and it's just appearing as this. And so when you try to explain the simplicity of this to someone that's trying to make it complicated, you're going to say, when somebody's trying to say, but I saw Santa last night. And you're gonna say, really? But I left, I left cookies by the table and he ate it.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't personally.
But I've been driving this Tesla, this self-driving Tesla, for the past 20 years or 50 years that I've been seeking, right? You're not going to say, well, keep on driving then. You know what? That's what you're good at. Or, you're going to say, well, there's never been any driver because, you know what? There's this Tesla is driving by itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, like for me, mysteries. Everything's a mystery, right? Everything's exactly as it is.
It's
It's already
unknowable.
perfect.
I don't know what
And
I'm
it's
talking
all
about.
and it's
Yeah.
unknowable. You'll always end up back in unknowability. As far
Yeah.
as I'm concerned, exploring all of these things are that appear to be available, in
But
the
there
lack of a need of an answer. In that
Well,
all I'm
there's a
doing.
lot of Howard. There's a lot of T-shirts for that. I won't name names again because I'll get in trouble. But you can go to inquiry for that. You know what I'm saying? If that's what people want to know. This is not about inquiry because there's no one who's inquiring and there's nothing to inquire about. Because how can you inquire this? It's already appearing as this perfectly and perfectly as this, and there's nothing lacking. So when someone raises their hand and basically says, but I saw Santa, and you're going to say, there's no Santa.
Well, the funny thing about I understand what you're saying, and the funny thing
I love you,
about that.
Howard, by the way. I love you.
Yeah, me too.
Let's do
um,
another shot.
yes,
Shot.
um, the funny thing is that the mystery just gets funner to talk about the more you explore
But
because
mystery is also
um,
another word, right? It's just another word to describe the indescribable. It's just
yes,
another word. It's just another word. It's just another word.
true,
Yeah.
true.
And then you're trying to arrive at truth because there's no such thing as truth. So when people want to hear about the mystery, they want it to unravel. But the mystery is always going to be mysterying. It's always going to be mystery. And
Mhm.
there's no solution to a mystery, and there's always going to be a mystery.
Right.
So when a me kind of like tries to jump in and say, well, I want to know the mystery, or can you tell me something more about the mystery?
Mhm.
I know that you see this without you being there, Howard.
No,
This is already seen.
uh,
So trying to to see something that's already been seen is kind of like trying to capture air.
so it is kind of limiting in that it's one of
the
these
the
things
the
where
me is limited, right? It's just a really limiting thing. So it's going to communicate in a way that is also limiting.
yeah, it's kind of limiting in that
It's kind of limiting. Well, there's no intention to be limiting, but because I can keep on just saying that this is just really obvious, and there's never been anyone here, over and over again throughout the whole hour, 2 hours that we've
it's
been
just
talking.
this, yeah.
It's just this. It's just this. It's just this. It's just this and
and,
this and
and it's a
this and
bird
this.
chirping in a tree.
It's
It's,
just
it's
this and this.
literally a base
It's
of the
just
person.
so freaking obvious. You know what I'm saying? It's just so freaking obvious. And then when somebody tries to kind of like say, how is it obvious? I'll just be saying, I don't know, but it's just obvious. It's just obvious as sight. It's just obvious as breathing. It's just obvious as the heart beating. It's just obvious as this. But there's never been anyone there that has the heart beating, the nose inhaling, the eyes blinking. Did you know that the eyes blink 10,000 times? But do we know that? No. Do we see that? Because there's never been anyone here. And it's always been this way. There was this, in that apparent timeline, there's no time. There was this belief system that thought that this is not this. There's got to be something better than this.
Right.
There's got to be something more than this. But this is all that there is, and there's nothing outside of this. And there's never been anyone that's ever been here. And I love poetries like Nancy does beautiful poetries, expressing this. It's pointing to the this that cannot be captured as a this. It's uncapturable. and we can talk, and I can finish the bottle of like whiskey here. I've never done an interview with whiskey, but I enjoy this
I'm grateful.
apparentness. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And as Paul Morgan Summers said, this is just drunken conversation.
Oh, if you ever see that guy, can you tell him I said hi? I love his stuff.
Oh, he's beautiful. Yeah.
I love that guy. He
Yeah.
is perfect. He is perfect. I love his stuff. I just he tells
I had
this is
fun talking to him because it was like, oh, finally can like someone speaking a beautiful language about this,
it,
right? And
it's
and
his
it's
language.
oh
Yes,
yeah, yeah.
it's his manner of speech, the way he yeah, it's
And
a
then
combination.
people seem to have, sorry, go ahead.
No, please go
Accommodation.
ahead.
No, no, go ahead.
No, well, I was just gonna say
You
he
were
seems
you
to
were
have
in
a
this.
great combination. Yeah, he has a great combination of the message, so to speak, and also stories about it. The drunken language thing, where he
Yeah.
kind of makes it all this beautiful little collage, and it's beautiful. I love it, and it's just I love his story of how he went off and found his own way and all of this kind of thing. And it is just beautiful. The whole his whole demeanor. Yeah, I love it because he's a very distinct style. I'll say that.
there's so many beautiful speakers about this, and what happened was kind of funny. When it came into Nothing Media, I was expecting um, speakers, not teachers.
Mm,
I think I told you about that. That I was going to be encountering a lot of speakers just speaking description about this, not prescriptive. But I encountered a lot of prescriptive things about this, and that's what threw me off. Right? I was like, oh, I thought that, and I talked to Tony about it, and I just said, um, I don't really understand what these people are talking about. They're trying to put me in a meditation and everything,
mm,
but I said I don't want to be disrespectful. I do love a lot of these people, that are
mm,
teachers that are prescriptive. I think they're great people,
mm.
but what they're telling me is something that I've talked about 10 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
oh.
yeah.
I look. As far as I'm concerned, you deserve a medal. You there's a couple of times where I was like, wow, wow. I think at one point you actually walked out of one. Where I was watching it, and like all of a sudden you weren't there. You just got up and you weren't there, and somebody else took your place. I was like, I don't blame him. But yeah,
Yeah.
there's another one where there was a young lady that we all know, and she was doing a link, and this guy was talking to her as if she was it was like a teacher talking to a second grader, like he was really, no, now focus, now listen to what I'm saying, and she was just smiling. I don't know
Yeah.
how she did it. I swear to God, but the teachers can be brutal.
Yeah, yeah. So I really had a misunderstanding of what I was getting into, because I thought that when there's an apparent dropping away, um, there's a simplicity in this communication, and there's an obviousness to it. So when someone's trying to walk you into the obvious, trying to put you into a trance or into a meditative state, into something that's already appearing as this, or trying to talk about some dead writers or some dead teachers, explaining about this, and their own kind of self-realization, I don't really understand. I tried to be earnest and try to be, and but what I and I would just see it. This is just what's happening. This is just, apparently what's just happening. This is just what's appearing. Unconditional love is appearing as this teachers, which is which is what it is. And so in the interviewers behind the mic, I was trying to tailor my interviewing to whoever I was speaking, like an acting job, basically. And and I tried to be direct with my questions, but I also did not want to offend them. Again, the
Yes.
character is kind. It has a it can also be vicious too. but
Well, I completely understand it in the same way that, like, for example, people that I interview, essentially, I want to highlight them,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
but at the same time, it's got to be a you got to keep the interview worth watching. I mean, you got to give enough contrast
yeah,
to make it, a conversation,
yeah.
at least within that parameter of production. Um, it's like honoring the person by giving them the opportunity to express themselves in such a way as it appears,
Mm.
you know. But that, and that is a fine line. Because I got blanked off a couple of times by people that I would never have thought were so shallow in regards to these discussions. I They were offended by what I was saying, and I was not saying anything that you and I are just casually talking about now. And they literally were left and blocked me on Facebook and just never spoke to me again. And we had just started. I hadn't even gotten going yet. You know, I completely misread that situation.
Oh no.
And yeah, it was kind of brutal. Have you ever ran into that kind of thing where that somebody just reacted so poorly that they just blocked you?
Um, it was kind of funny because as the apparent timeline of me kind of like interviewing people progressed, they started seeing that I never hit it. You know what I'm saying? It was never in fact, I was trying to compromise. You know what I'm saying? In having, I was just thinking that this is a job, interviewing people,
Mhm.
and and yeah, there were times that they just I would keep on asking about questions that did not really make sense, that they were just going in a circle, not
Mhm.
trying to be not trying to be a dick about it, just trying to understand what they were trying to say. And some of the one of the biggest teachers or speaker said,
Mhm.
cut the interview in half, and basically
Yeah.
said, I don't think and I agreed with the person, and I said, I don't think this interview is really going anywhere, because you keep on answering question that is giving a circular answer to something that I'm trying to understand what this awareness or consciousness is all about, when it's coming from. When you say that there's no timeline, why would you say that there's a pre, and a prior to whatever?
Right.
And I said, this interview is going to look bad on your part and also bad on my part.
Yeah.
So we decided not to release it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this
And
person contacted me. This is really funny. This person contacted me a couple of weeks ago if I could do a retreat with this person.
what?
Yeah, yeah. This should not.
For
This
what
should be.
purpose? Just to have a debate or what?
No, 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 no. Just sees what I'm doing as something that this person could use. Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I'll tell you what. If I may, as
yeah.
you're saying all that stuff,
Yeah.
I thought about my first interview. You actually were my very first. You interviewed me.
Oh,
I had never been
you
interviewed
popped the
before in my
cherry.
life. I had, oh, dude, I'm just this troll in a basement and doing the thing on Facebook, and I was so honored. And I thought, could it be that? I mean, I couldn't understand why you wanted to talk to me anyways. And I was like, maybe could it be that they're offering me a position or something? But I was so nervous. You bent over backwards to try to help me 2 times, and I was so absolutely just out of my element that no matter how much you tried to carry me across the finish line, I mean, literally, as I watched it, I'm like, I mean, it's just so terrible. And I mean, you literally tried to help me, and I just could not help myself. And it's just funny, but the great thing about that is that was one of the catalysts that got me to just do it, because I thought, you know one of the things that I was having an issue with in regards to the interview was I had the feeling that there was a specific kind of message that that I was going to have to produce, and I wasn't sure about that, and I don't like being dishonest. And at the same time, I love the messageless message, and I just don't want to have to adhere to it if I don't want to. And the thing about it was is, um, I was thinking that I was going to, add some kind of, new nuance, when in fact it came out like, I mean, I was just, it was horrible. And but as all the cuts and bruises are, it just, I leave it out there. I put it on my page, and it is what it is. But uh, the funniest thing about it is, um, I see how much you actually wanted. It looked like you wanted me to, to succeed in some fashion, and I just was so ill prepared that it. But that in turn lit a fire under me to say I can do better than that. I know I can do better than that. It was so awful. I thought I was gonna, contribute to the overall scope of the messageless message, and in fact, it was just, it was a pathetic display. So,
No, no, it was not. It was not. You know what? Just to go back into that, that there doesn't need to be a me to see right through that beautiful happiness. There's no choice in that. It was just seen as something that was passionate arising from you, and this passion is arising right now. You know what I'm saying? It can't be quenched. And this passion that is arising and is sharing this communication, whatever it is, God, I don't even know what it is that I'm talking about, is also arising in this apparent, character named Howard.
Howard.
and there's no and there's no separation from that, from this arising of this communication and sharing this. um, there's none, right? There might be some different nuances in this communication and what you're speaking and everything, but what's clear is that there's never been anyone here to do anything. and
Yes.
and and this beautiful kind of like expressions and bursts of expressing this is this aliveness, this unconditional love that we keep on talking about, that can never be described. So this
The
is
thing is,
but I was
I'm
I
sorry,
was
go ahead.
but I was so happy when we did the second time, because I know you were flustered with the first one. So so to answer that question, if there's a character, you know what I'm saying, if the character will be evil or bad, there's still going to be a golden heart no matter what.
Well,
Yeah.
see, that's what, see,
Yeah.
and that's what
It
I
doesn't
kept.
need it doesn't need an I or a me to be this.
Well, and see, some people have said this to me about you in particular, that like when I told them I was gonna we were gonna do this, they said, "Watch out, man. He'll correct you. He'll step on you. He'll do this and that." And I said, "Yeah, but see, I that's the funny thing about it. Um, I know." I know what I watched you. I know what you're doing. It's like, yeah, but he's not really. People. The reputation being, like you were saying. Oh, he used to be great, but now he's doing this, and this. If you so much as try, and this is what I'm running into personally. Okay, in regards to the same thing that people say. Well, no, he used to be nice, but now he's correcting people and doing things and making it a certain genre or whatever. Well, in my group and on my page, I have just an amazing just array of different types of people, and I love that. I always have loved to have, whatever you want to think, as long as you're kind, I don't care. You're welcome. You can do whatever you want, however you want, as long as you're kind to the other members. I don't care. But the overall, the funny aspect of it is, um, what I learned is, um, people will generally, they come in hard in that they'll say, uh, example of a theist. God is this, and da 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 da. God says unto thee, and blah 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 blah. Okay, and everybody's supposed to adhere to that. And if you don't adhere to that, then you're going to hell. And then they'll get angry, and you kick them out, and they leave or whatever. Whereas what I just started doing was saying, groovy. I mean, all right, so let's talk about this. And we would just go over it. And instead of shunning the person or making them instead of like correcting them, I give them a platform and say, as long as you're kind, you say whatever you want. And what happens is some people leave, some people stay. But the coolest thing is the friends that I have that have stayed around long enough to realize that, because at first, they look at my stuff and they're like, "You're insane. I mean, this is garbage. It's trash. This is madness. It's impossible, and you're an idiot." And I'll be like, "Yeah, well, that's probably all true, true as true can be." But that for better or worse, that's really how I think, or how I appear to think. And so, and this is why. And I'll just go on about my business and allow them to do their thing. And so, and by doing so, they chill a lot more, and that they'll say, "Oh, okay, so I can say what I want about my God, and then that's okay." And it's like, absolutely, you can say whatever you want about whatever you want. Just be nice to the other people around you, and you're welcome. And in that way, everybody just kind of relaxes. Just everybody just kind of. And what has happened is I have this eclectic group of people from all over the place, like literally every walk of genre of thought you can imagine, science to Christian to what have you, all the different. And where those two people would generally butt heads, in this situation they actually start talking to each other. And overall time, even the people that hang around, even though they don't agree with what I'm saying, actually start to understand the language, if nothing else. And every now and again, there's these little fun happening, not happenings, and that's my little apparent world. And it's beautiful. But those same people would say, some of them had told me, watch out for him, because he'll correct you, he'll do this and that. And I try to explain to him that no, he's just trying. What he's trying to do is tell you, I mean, if you're in a situation where he's speaking and you're asking questions, you gotta let you gotta let him answer the question that you're asking. You're asking him a question. You gotta let him answer it in the way that he can. And if you don't like that, and he might correct you. I mean, that's just the way it is.
No.
But yeah, I mean, I heard that from a couple of people, and
Oh no.
well, no, it's just that. But no, to me, I've never. That was one of the questions I got. How can you be? That was it. Nah, going full circle. Um,
All right.
um, how is it that you do attract? I mean, look. Um, just in a broad sense, you seem to have a staying power of an alligator, and in that you have plenty of people that definitely resonate with you and love you in every way, and in all of the different endeavors. What I'm saying is, how does an individual like yourself, who is so kind-hearted, um, find this unconditional message that seems so cold at times and indifferent? I mean, how do you explain this this resonance that you have with so many?
Well, there's no one here that you're describing. What's appearing, you know what I'm saying, is kindness, and kindness appears as long along with evilness or whatever, and the communication of this communication that cannot be communicated, what seems to be appearing is that there's this kind character that's delivering this communication. It's at its kindest essence, saying that, that there's never been anyone here, and there's never been anyone here ever. That's the kindest thing that you could say to someone.
Mm.
And I think that's really kind. I think that's not brutal. That's just really kind. It's the obviousness of it. It's the clarity of what's being seen, um, that is never will ever change. You know what I'm saying? This is changelessness. So what's being communicated is just um, perhaps the kindest unconditional love that it could ever be communicated when it's expressed that there's never been anyone here. And I don't see that as a deviation from the character at all. Um, but it's just seen as a radical honesty. Because sometimes when someone's being kind and they lie to somebody to make them feel better, it's not really kind.
Oh no.
No, right? When they're just appeasing someone, when just trying to make someone kind of like feel better. You know what, when later on, you know what I'm saying? There's no later on,
Right.
but later on when they realize they're like, oh, Emerson's been lying to me. There's
Right.
never been anyone here. So what? Why was he, talking to me if I saw was here? Um, yeah, it's just for someone that has lied for a long time about spirituality and purification and meditation and mantras and whatever. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong or right about that. The person's being earnest or not even being earnest. It's just what's happening.
Right.
It's just finally come clean.
Mm.
It's basically a scene that there's never been anyone here and there's never been anything happening. So when that's being communicated in a pure, innocent way, that it's not seeing really anyone, I don't think I don't think that's um, I think that's unconditional love appearing as this.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, everything is. Everything is. I agree with you.
Everything
Um,
is. Yeah, everything is.
everything is. It's already what every. It's like you said. I think I wrote a post. Um, every word ever written is already what is, and every word writes itself. So
Yeah.
it's one of these things where you can't be wrong. However, there's this thing about the the apparent, let's say a seeker or an
Mhm.
explorer who's in pain, and ask a question, and the
If
person in
somebody's in
pain.
pain, if somebody's
Yeah.
in pain and they're going to mental pain, I will tell them to go to counseling.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just simply not on offer. It's just
No, this
you're
this communication is not about, it's not about alleviating pain or suffering,
right,
right?
right.
It's if because people come into this communication
But it can
sometimes
be,
that
though, can't it?
no, not really, because there's no one here.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
at the same time, in losing themselves, they can lose the pain.
Well, you know what? If they are in pain and they're looking for something to kind of like medicate them or heal them or something like that, this is not the communication for that.
Yeah.
This is
Well,
not
that's
this is
fair
not
enough.
therapy whatsoever. Right? No
That's,
whatsoever.
well, that's fair
It will
enough.
be irresponsible to think it is, right? Because it's not. Seek some, some mental health professionals or something, some for people that are suffering and this kind of stuff. Because um although it sees everything as a story, in the story, also seeking help, you know what I'm saying, is also what is. There's nothing wrong or right about that. See, that's
It
the
does,
hang
does,
up. That's the hang up with a lot of spirituality, right? That thinking that I could be better, I could be, doing this. It's that narrative that I can um, heal or something like that.
well,
That's the spirituality. Sorry, go ahead.
however, it doesn't have to be that way, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be that that just go find someone else. I mean, if you can help a person and it is the
Well,
apparent,
there's no person to help.
right?
There's never been anyone here, right?
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
yeah. But
just a
there appears to be.
communication. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. But there appears to be, just like there
There
appears to
appears to
be.
be. Yeah, yeah, yeah. In the
Yeah.
story, there is. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
So
And in the
so
story,
then
they can also go for seek for for some other help other than this, because this is not about psychological help or getting better or something.
That's actually I do feel that resonance of
Yeah.
honesty in that. Well, go, if you don't like it, go, go somewhere else. And that's kind of
Oh, it's not even
now
that.
that
There's
I understand.
yeah, yeah.
It's kind of yeah. It's so that's it. It's essentially, yeah. It's that self. That's the well, that's kind of it, isn't it? That's kind of the essential self-sustaining message. This message in that,
There's no self to sustain. It's just this appearing as this, right? So when that gets repeated over and over again, maybe the grasp, there's an openness and the grasp on thinking that there's someone here loosens, and it sees this as eternally that there's never been anyone. The obviousness of this, the clarity of this, right? And the seemingly idea that there's someone to get this or someone can get hurt is dealt with. You know what I'm saying? If that's in a dream, then go seek some other help. But this is not about that. This is about the simplicity, the stunningly obviousness of what's apparently appearing as this.
apparently appearing as,
This.
yeah, as this, and this can appear to be, you know, yeah. I guess
Anything.
yeah, it can appear to be anything. It
Oh
essentially
yeah,
is.
yeah.
It's everything.
It's everything.
Appearing,
Nothing's
as
excluded whatsoever, right? Nothing has ever been excluded. Nothing has ever been separate. Nothing has ever been. Yeah, it's all appearing as this.
it's so amazing. And so, who do you have a favorite speaker?
No, no. I resonate with when with Tony and Jim and Kenneth and Andreas, right? I resonate with those speakers, but there's no one even there. So what they're basically telling me is just obviousness, appearing as obviousness, right? So there's no when when I saw Tony first, there was this giddiness. I'm like, oh, Tony,
Yeah,
and right away it's seen that there's no one special
yeah.
because there's no one there. Yeah.
I think that's just, and in turn, that's kind of the specialness of him, in that special, not special. I'm saying it's unique in that, or it appears unique that I just like he's just got a twinkle in his eye, and when he starts talking, when he starts telling stories, that's when I really just like, I just love his stuff, because I understand it. It's like we this person gave me a Andreas Miller link, almost as a joke. They're like, oh, I think I found something you can resonate with, like look at this guy. And I looked at it for 10 minutes. I was like, that's it. This is beautiful. And they were like, oh God. But it was true. I mean, I understood exactly what he was saying immediately. And it's, to me, um, yeah, it was amazing. I was listening to Nancy Niedercut, who is so expressive with her words, whereas Andreas is the exact opposite. He's like a knife, and the contrast was big. But yeah, it's all essentially stories, and yeah, it's. I see what you know. What I kind of like what you said there. If you're in pain, go to a doctor or something like that, or go to the healer or something. This is simply not that message. I mean, it can be. It can be that it can appear as if an individual stops feeling pain, but that is just a story, and it's not what this is about. Yeah, I like that. That resonates as honest with me, and it's yeah, in a way that there's a certain amount of um, I would just like to say integrity involved in the honesty of it, in that I would rather be simplistic or I'd rather be cutthroat and tell you exactly the truth in the moment as it appears, rather than feed you full of a bunch of nonsense that's not really going to help you at all. And yeah, I can appreciate that very much. I had this one thing I wanted to say that I totally forgot. um, I think there was something that you said I wanted to touch on, but it has escaped me. And I think I kept you long enough. Uh,
Oh no, no. Thank you. This has been really great. Yeah, this
I
has been
really,
really great.
you
This has been really great.
you are, to me, um, honestly, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say other than thank you from the bottom of my heart. Literally, your stuff, your work, um, everything that you have been doing has had a direct. I have engaged in your pages, in your links, and all the different people you brought to everybody's attention, and all paradoxes aside, and all the language aside. Uh, all the things that you have been doing for the past year and a half has made a difference in my story. And I know that's all frilly, and I'm not trying to aside with the paradoxes of the language. I would just like to say I appreciate you in every sense of the word, and I cannot tell you how grateful I am that you have given me the time of day and allowed me to press you on some of these more touchy subjects. And I want you know you to know that it's uh, it's not lost on me how patient and uh, and how giving you are with your time and your patience. And I just want to say thank you, man, from the bottom of my heart. Honestly, uh, I'm grateful.
No, thank you, Howard. You've been one of the nicest guys around on the Facebook, and I really appreciate that. And oddly enough, there's never been anyone here.
Yeah, yeah, it's so beautiful, and I love that I love that you have everything. I'm trying to. I love that your delivery. I love that I just resonate with you. I love that you have a golden heart and an honest, straightforward approach to how you deal with people. And and again, it's one of those things where you know you, as other people are saying, watch out. He'll correct you, or he'll do this or that. And I'm saying that's what I want. I would rather have the straightforward. I would rather have the straight juice. I mean, tell me as you see it. Don't beat around. Let me give it to me between the eyes. You know what I mean? But yeah, and I just again, is there anything that you would like to say in closing? Is there anything going on
No,
with you? Or
no. Just glad that. Thank you so much for this. This has been beautiful. Thank you. Yeah.
uh, from the bottom of my heart, thanks, man. And I'll leave it there. Hey, let's do one more shot. Come
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Shoot.
on.
Okay. Oh, I get some more. Just a second.
Sure. I had to get that one more shot in. All right, my brother. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely, man.
Thank you so much. I'll see you soon.
Cheers, brother. Thanks again. See you soon, man.
Thank you so much.
Later, bud.
Bye bye.